Hello, my name is Mandy and today we are going to be doing my July wrap-up. July was a pretty good month for me. I ended up reading 14 books. 7 of those were during the reading rush though, and the other 7 books were in the rest of the month. We're going to go through some stats about the books that I read. I read 2 audiobooks, I guess listened to 2 audiobooks, and 3 half of an audiobook. 2 of those were partially listening, partially physically reading. The other one was kind of a DNF. I read 9 physical books, including 2 half ones, which, you know, I read half an audiobook, half a physical book. And I had a pretty good reading month. My rating average was 4.125, so I'd say that's pretty good, especially for a girl who was giving all 3-star reviews for a few months there. Now first off, I'm going to talk about the books that I did not finish. One of them was on my July TBR. It was Catherine the Great by Brian K. Massey? By someone Massey. I left my phone out in the living room and I'm not gonna go there right now. Anyways, this was my nonfiction book pick of the month for July, and it was really good. I was interested in the beginning. It was about Catherine the Great, and about 60% of the way through, I just couldn't do it anymore. It was a 15-hour long audiobook, and by the time that I made it to the 60% mark, I was only a couple of years into her reign, and he went off onto so many side tangents that I just couldn't do it anymore. I lost all desire to read the book. I don't think it's a forever DNF. I think that eventually I will pick it up and just finish it, but there were people waiting for the audiobook from Libby, and I just needed a break, so I said, let them have it. I'm not doing this anymore. The other book that I DNF'd was also a temporary DNF. It was Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard by Rick Riordan. Evie is in the corner playing, if you couldn't guess by the noise. Better her playing than trying to knock my tripod over, which she has been trying to do recently. Now, the Magnus Chase book was on my TBR for the reading rush. I was excited to read it, and I got the audiobook from my library. I started listening, and it was literally probably the worst audiobook I've ever listened to. The author was so condescending. I feel like he was talking down to me like I was a 5-year-old. And it's just like, this is supposed to be a YA book. Why are you talking down to me like that? So I just couldn't. And it took away the desire that I had to read the book. So for now, it's going on the shelf. I will pick it up eventually. Now onto the books that I actually read and that I actually liked. The first book that I read this month was Again But Better by Christine Riccio. This book is about a girl who goes on a semester abroad in London to basically redo college. It's basically her restart because she did college how she feels wrong. She wasn't very social, and she wants to change that when she goes to London. Now, this book has gotten mixed reviews. I've seen good and I've seen bad. I land on the good side of the spectrum, and I actually really enjoyed this. While I liked it, I do understand why other people did not like it. This book takes place in 2011, and it is very heavy on references to that year and the couple years before that. And because I was in college during that time, I actually really enjoyed all the references. It was nostalgic to me. It felt like taking a step back into my college years as well. The people that I have seen not like it didn't like that aspect of the book. And I think the only reason that I did like it is because I was familiar with all of those things, and it was like stepping back into the time. I rated this book 4 stars. And there were a couple of things that took away that 5th potential star. One of them was there was a twist in the middle of the book, and I was not really expecting it, and I wasn't the biggest fan of it. The other thing that I did not like about the book was there was an epilogue. I feel like the epilogue was a little unnecessary and over the top cheesy, which, I mean, some people like that. The next book that I read was Aurora Rising by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. This book was my pick for a book out of my comfort zone because I don't usually read sci-fi, and I am so glad that I did. I loved this book. It's about a guy named Ty who is at the top of his class at the Aurora Academy. He's all ready to get his own crew for spaceship flying. It is a sci-fi. He's feeling a little bit anxious on the day of the draft where he gets to choose his team, and he goes out on a flight. He ends up answering a distress call, and because he answers this distress call, he misses the draft. He's left with an assortment of misfits for a team. On top of that, the girl that he actually rescued her from cryosleep. She had been asleep for a couple hundred years, and her whole existence is a mystery that we don't really know about. It was a pretty good formula for a sci-fi book. You had this group of misfits coming together, and their humor was really fun, and I thought that the book was really funny. I gave this a 4-star review. As I said, the characters were so funny. There was a great sense of humor in the writing style, and the mystery was definitely something that I want more of, and I'm very excited to read the next one. The next book that I read was Archenemies by Marissa Meyer. This is the sequel to Renegades. I won't say much about the plot because it does relate directly to the first one. I don't want to spoil anybody. But I will say that I was worried about this book. I was worried that after I loved Renegades so much that Archenemies would be a disappointment, and it wasn't. It lived up to my expectations. I give this one 5 stars, just like the first one. And it is easily my new favorite series. Marissa Meyer is my new favorite author. I am on a mission to read everything she's written now. I even already pre-ordered Supernova, the 3rd book. I can't remember the last time I pre-ordered a book. I think the last time I pre-ordered a book was City of Fallen Angels by Cassandra Clare back in 2000, was it? I think it was 2011? May even have been 2010. It was a long time ago. No, it was 2011. The only thing I'd say about this book, and it's really not that big of an issue, is that there were a lot of loose ends left at the end of Renegades, and none of them were tied off in this book. And while that's not a big deal for this book, I worry about the next book because it feels like there's just so many loose ends that I'm worried they won't all be tied off satisfactorily at the end of the next book. And she has confirmed that she's done and it's a trilogy. The next book that I read was A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab. This is the 2nd book in the Shades of Magic trilogy. After how much I loved A Darker Shade of Magic, this one actually did disappoint me. It did not live up to my expectations like Archenemies did. I mean, it wasn't bad, it just wasn't amazing. I rated it a 3.75 stars. It wasn't pushing me on to read as much as the last one was. Oh, and for those of you who haven't read it, the ending is a major cliffhanger. So if you're gonna read it, make sure that you have A Conjuring of Light, the next book, readily available because you're gonna want it. I don't think that's a spoiler. The next book that I read was Hard to Get by Emma Carlson Byrne, and this was my least favorite book of the month. This is one of the Simon Pulse romantic comedies. Basically, they are really quick reads of YA romances. You know, they're romantic comedies. I enjoy the other ones from that series that I've read. They're basically like cotton candy, and it's always been really nice for me to read. And this one was the worst that I've read so far. Well, I probably won't be reading many more because I think I've read most of them, and they stopped coming out with them a few years ago. This was one of the few ones I hadn't read. Basically, you have a girl who decides to take a break from boys, and suddenly every single guy in the school is after her. Like, there wasn't anything special about her at all, and all of a sudden all the guys are obsessed with her to the point that they get her locker combination and start leaving toys and candy and like everything you can imagine just like overflowing out of her locker. And it's just like, that is the least realistic thing I have read this month. The romance was so bland. I really didn't see how they work together. The only reason that I finished it is because they're such quick reads and I knew that it wouldn't take me long to get to the end of the stupid book. Sorry. The next book that I read was a reread, and I only read the book last month. This is a testament to how much I'm in love with the series. The next book that I read this month was Renegades by Marissa Meyer. I was able to track down a good price for a used book, and I couldn't wait to read it again. Well, actually what happened was there were a couple of days in between when I finished my last book and when the reading rush started, and I wanted to read something, but everything else that I wanted to read was on my reading rush TBR. So I picked up this guy and finished it before it started. I loved it still 5 stars. It's awesome. The next books that I read were all for the reading rush. If you want to hear my thoughts on them, you can check out my reading rush wrap-up video. I'll link that below. For purposes here, I'm just going to say the book, the author, and the rating that I gave it. Princess in Waiting by Meg Cabot. I gave this book 4 stars for nostalgic reasons. Cinder by Marissa Meyer, 4 stars as well. To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han, 5 stars. The Kingdom by Jess Rothenberg, 3 stars. P.S. I Still Love You by Jenny Han, 5 stars. Always and Forever Laura Jean by Jenny Han, 4 stars. Scarlet by Marissa Meyer, 4 stars. The final book that I read this month was Batman Nightwalker by Marie Lu. DC is partnered with a publishing company, I can't remember which one, and that publishing company has come out with a bunch of YA versions of superhero stories. A couple months ago I read Wonder Woman by Leigh Bardugo. This one is by Marie Lu. As I said, it is a YA telling of Batman. Bruce is 18. He gets into trouble trying to help out the cops, and because of that he is sentenced to community service at Arkham Asylum, which anyone who knows the Batman story knows that Arkham Asylum is the place where all the crazies go. When he's cleaning the top security area, he meets a girl named Madeline. She's rumored to be a Nightwalker, and she has not talked to the police the entire time that they've had her there, except she will talk to Bruce, of course. Bruce tries to use his connection to get answers about the Nightwalkers and tries to take them down. That's basically it. I gave this book 2 stars. I mean, it was just a run-of-the-mill superhero story, and there wasn't anything special about it. There wasn't anything that I particularly enjoyed. There wasn't anything that I particularly hated, although it is very unrealistic that they had an 18-year-old boy doing cleanup for community service in the top security area. Like, no, I'm sorry, it's just not realistic. The whole story was just a little bit too complicated for how short the book was, and I don't know if I'm going to read any more of the DC superhero stories. I had high hopes for them because I do love superhero stories, but I think that I may just give up on them after this one. I don't know, maybe I'll try the Superman one, because Superman is my favorite. I don't know. That's what I read this month. I had a pretty good reading month. 14 books is crazy. What did you guys read in July? Do you have any 5-star reads like I did? Did you read any sequels that you were blown away by? Did you read any sequels that you were disappointed by? I would love to hear all of the things that you guys read. If you like what you saw, feel free to click subscribe. You can also follow me on my social media, which I will link below. I hope you're having a great bookish day, and I'll see you next time.